He was respectful to Christopher Columbus, but he was accused of stealing his fame. Even though he was not the first discoverer, he assumed that the unknown lands were a new part of the world. He was gifted with writing ability, but there are only 32 pages of his letters. Nevertheless, those were enough for the new continent to be named after Amerigo Vespucci. The biography of Vespucci is full of holes. Even his birth date is uncertain. It is either 1451 or 1454. It is known that he was the son of a rather poor Florentine notary and received home education. The easy-tempered and hard-working boy did not show his worth either in sciences or in hobbies. He found pleasure, at least, in astronomy and mathematics that he studied under the guidance of his uncle, a priest. From the age of 16, the young man painstakingly worked at the bank house of Lorenzo Medici. His life as a junior employee was dull and monotonous. 2 years passed before Amerigo's unique honesty was valued. When it was discovered that money had been embezzled at the Spanish Bank of Medici, Amerigo was entrusted to be an auditor of the business. In 1490, he moved to Seville into the trading company of Baratti that financed sea expeditions to distant countries. On his way to Seville in Pisa, Vespucci bought an old navigation map of the Mediterranean Sea for 130 ducats. Then he studied mapmaking, navigation, and ship construction on his own. After Baratti died, Amerigo went to the Spanish Sea Service. In 1493, Vespucci met Columbus and helped him to equip his second and third expeditions. After 6 years, Amerigo himself unexpectedly went on a voyage with Alonso Acchita, a former comrade of Columbus. It is unknown what made Amerigo give up his regular life for one of risky travel. One explanation was the lack of money. He could not make a fortune the honest way, and he did not dare take the money that passed through his hands. Another version of the story says that after 30 years of honest service, Amerigo became a rich and respectable financier. However, the success of Columbus's expeditions awakened his adventurous nature. Having invested a big part of his own savings in the expedition, he was determined to discover new lands. Anyway, in 1499, Vespucci left on his first sea voyage. One account says he was a navigator, but another reports that he was a captain. Amerigo investigated the ocean and the nature of the lands. He also observed the life of the South American coastal peoples. Though that expedition did not bring him money, he earned valuable experience as a sailor. At the age of 50, Vespucci went on 2 more voyages in 1501 and 1503, those times under the Portuguese flag. In 1502, the sailors named an easily accessible bay on the Brazilian coast Rio de Janeiro, or the River of January, since it was found on the 1st of January. The expedition investigated the Brazilian coasts, and the sailors were convinced that the land stretched far to the south. Vespucci was correct in stating that it was not Asian island as Columbus had thought before, but an unknown continent. In 1503, in a letter to his homeland addressed to his former boss Lorenzo Medici, Vespucci at first named that continent the New World. Having a talent for writing, Amerigo Vespucci brightly described the nature of the continent and the appearance of life of the South American Indians he had seen. An unknown Italian publisher included the letters of Vespucci in a book loudly named The New World and the New Lands, discovered by the Florentine Amerigo Vespucci. The book was translated into many languages, and in 1507, in France, the map with the new continent's outlines was published. The author of the map, a cartographer named Martin Wolzimüller, proposed to name the new part of the world Amerigo's Land, or America. Another version has it that the author of the first American map was Vespucci's friend, the famous Leonardo da Vinci. Having received a Native American pipe and tobacco as a present from Amerigo, he became the first European smoker. To express his gratitude, he painted the southern continent on paper and wrote Amerigo on it. It is unknown whether Vespucci knew of his fame as the first discoverer. In 1505, tired from exhausting voyages, Amerigo moved to Spain, and at last he got married, 3 years after he was appointed the country's chief navigator. He became a respectable royal official. He compiled maps from information gained from the Spanish expeditions and made reports for the government on the new geographical discoveries. His death in 1512 was peaceful and unnoticed. There were only several people walking in his funeral procession. Later, the remains of Columbus would be moved to Seville too. In the eyes of the next several generations, they would become enemies. Vespucci would be called a liar who strived to steal Columbus's fame, while Columbus himself considered Vespucci to be an honest and reliable person. Shortly before his death, he had written to his son about it. Columbus discovered America, but he did not know that. Vespucci did not discover it, but he was the first to understand that America was the unknown continent. As the geographer Humboldt wrote, the name America emerged due to the circumstances that remove all suspicions from Amerigo Vespucci. That fame as a stain on his memory spoiled his image and became a monument of people's injustice.